Alberta is blessed with a wide variety of high-quality sports. Rich with talented athletes and successful franchises in all levels in any sport. We aim to tell those stories. The Win Column Sports Network was created with one goal in mind, providing professional level coverage of semi-professional franchises, athletes, and organizations in Edmonton. We believe Edmonton can stand proudly behind our moniker of the City of Champions. This city has been home to multiple AJHL championships, a two-time WCBL semi-finalist, numerous WWE signed independent wrestlers, and many more success stories.
This is Shane Hurricane Helms.
Hey guys, this is TJ Wilson, aka Tyson Kidd.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Almighty Christopher Daniels.
Stories you can only find on the Win Column Sports Network.
And we are on our way. Welcome to Over the Top Rope Live here on Facebook Live and YouTube. Let's take it to our host right away here. The head of Over the Top Rope, the head of the Win Column Sports Network, better known as the WCSN, Spencer Love.
Hello, friends. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you letting me into your living rooms this evening. Thank you for tuning into the WCSN for our second attempt at a live interview. Of course, technical difficulties getting in the way in the first one. Thank you, Mike, the producer, in this week's role. However, thank you to my guest, Kayla Jaye, a multi-time champion across a variety of different promotions. Man, it is good to have you on here, Cage. It's been a while since we've done a podcast together. I figured let's let people watch the process this time rather than getting together and doing that recording shit. So how are you doing, man? How are you keeping busy during this COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I mean, because this isn't a podcast, it means I actually had to do my hair. So
I showered and put on like jeans for the first time in I think 5 days. It's been fine.
At least I'm showering, like, still wearing pajamas, but, you know, no one knows. That's fine.
Fair enough, man. Now, obviously, everybody who's been a longtime fan of the podcast, of professional wrestling here in Alberta in any iteration, they should know who you are by now. But if anybody's tuning in that hasn't had the opportunity to watch Kayla Jaye wrestle, just give a little bit of a brief background into who you are.
Who am I? That's a tough question. I mean, there's been many versions of me, as people may know. Kayla Jaye's here to stay, though. She's the longest tenured, you know what I mean? But you may know me as KJ Cash. She was around for a little bit. Then Envy was around for even longer, and they both sadly had to take a break. Gone, and now we're with Kayla Jaye's here, and to stay.
Fantastic, my friend. Now, I'm going to start it off right now with a fan question because, as I mentioned right off the bat, you are a multi-time champion across a variety of different promotions. Is there a championship win that means the most to you personally?
Usually you'd say the first one, right? Yeah. The first one was special because it was the first ever for me, like the first time I ever won a title. I think it was tainted because I didn't like the match. Yeah. But I will always remember that Angelica, everybody knows our history. Hopefully, they know our history. If not, I mean, producer Mike's wrote an article about it, so I'm sure he can plug that someday.
He's happier to fact check you.
I was gonna say he knows my facts better than I know them myself. So yeah. But I think the third time I ever won the RCW Women's Championship, in that 2 out of 3 falls, that one was special. That was like kind of a big, like, just build up in my mind. And then that was when Kayla Jaye showed up. That was the first one Kayla Jaye ever won. Yeah. So that one was special. I really enjoyed that match, even though I had bruises for weeks. But it was a good match. It was fun. And it was at that roller dome. So that was really cool in its own. So
well, and it was a blow off for yourself and Angelica, who you've had a huge feud with. Excuse me. When's the next time you think you want to step into the ring with her, and how do you top it?
How do you top it? Well, I guess it all depends on when the coronavirus decides to go away. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Hopefully before 2021 shows up. I don't know if we could ever. I'm sure like we can just top it in like a normal one-on-one match, because we've had all the stipulation matches. So I mean, we could do that again, but the only one we haven't done is a ladder match, and I don't know if we're willing to do that one. So we'll see. Maybe one day. That's the only one we haven't done. So that's the only way that we can top it.
We can do it on the roof of whatever promotion we're working for at the time, like they're doing for Money in the Bank.
I was going to say, she doesn't like doing stairs. I don't like doing stairs, so maybe not.
Cool. We'll call it even. One thing you did mention there is stipulation matches. Another question that we got is about another individual that you wrestled a couple of times, the Vixen Jade. Would you ever wrestle in a death match? No?
Have you watched her do those no DQ matches? Like, have you? She's crazy.
Insane. It's insane, dude. And I feel like I say it about pretty well anybody that I talk to in pro wrestling, but like, she is a personal favorite of mine for a variety of reasons. One being the fact that she can beat the shit out of people and get the shit beaten out of her and just take more and more and more, you know what I mean?
If that happened, I'm not saying it will because my mom's watching, but I mean, if it ever did, I would need like a month or two off after.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to.
You're losing and they're writing you off.
Yes, I would have to be written off anyways because of how bad she would beat me probably. I've seen her and I've wrestled her. So even after those matches, oh my goodness. But in a good way. But a death match, I don't think it's in a good way.
Do you have a favorite opponent?
Ooh. I like them all for different reasons.
Okay.
Like, obviously, there's been a few where I'm like, you know, like, that wasn't, in my opinion, like, I just didn't personally have a good match. So I'm not too eager to, like, go back. But then at the same time, I'm like, okay, I want to do this again, hopefully to have a better match. But, like, my favorite, everybody knows, like, Zoe. Everybody knows that. It's no secret. Angelica, no secret. Just because we know each other so well. Like, I've known her for like almost 4 years now.
You guys like broke in pretty well the same time, didn't you? If I remember correctly, because I think genuinely, Cage, it was like the first time I interviewed you that we really went through your training and all of that sort of stuff. You both broke in with MPW, correct?
Yeah, she started with them. I think that summer before me. So the summer before me, and then I came in the following January. So I think she has about like 8 months on me, maybe. Producer Mike can probably correct me if I am out of the park here.
Mike, can we get a fact check on that?
Yeah,
well,
fact
actually,
check that.
I'll just pop in here.
Oh, I can't wait to use this and abuse this throughout this conversation.
Let's exact date to the hour, Michael.
As a special highlight in about 50 minutes, I do believe it's the first singles contest for not only you, but also coming up her way. I think she might have had one or two prior to this, but one of her earliest singles matches as well. So you guys are, I believe the term you used last time we talked about it is babies at this.
We were babies. We were very much babies.
Oh, I'm excited to watch that one.
Admittedly, I had no idea what I was doing. I never watched that match back, and I never will. Maybe
you'll watch it now.
I think
I'm all watching it now.
Busy.
I think this interview's done.
Yeah, I think it's done. I'm busy. Yeah, that match. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it was what she started training.
Yeah.
At Storm first, and then came to MPW that summer.
I didn't know.
And then so then when I started with her, I met her the very first day, like when I just showed up and got to meet everybody. And she was one of the first, probably I think the first girl that came up to me and like shook my hand. And I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. There's girls here. I think at the time they had maybe like 5, 6 girls, and then a girl that was also reffing for a little while there. So that was really cool. I didn't think there was going to be any, if I'm honest. Yeah. So when she came up to me, and then I showed up to my actual training, and friends ever since.
Yeah.
Just be brutally honest with each other.
And beat the ever-loving hell out of each other every so often.
Yeah. She's like the funnest person to beat up and to be beat up by. Mostly just because we really want to try and like do new things all the time, and like we're not really afraid. I trust her, so
yeah. Makes sense.
So she's definitely will always be on top of my list for opponents. Jade, of course. Like when I get to wrestle her, it's a treat because she lives in like Vernon, so it's only maybe 2-3 times a year I get to see her, much less actually have a match with her, because sometimes we've been on the same card and like she's been wrestling somebody else. So, but just seeing her is great, but getting to wrestle her even better. So those 3 100%. For sure. Yeah.
Another specific match stipulation, then we'll move on to this one. You'll notice I'm wearing my wonderful, lovely Clandestine Society shirt here. You brought it up briefly with me, but let's get it out in the open here. You're booked for an imitation game match. Who are you wrestling, who are you imitating, and who's the other person imitating? I feel like you're either completely improvising this or you've thought about this for months. If you're clearing your throat to prep, like...
No, Zoe. Zoe and I actually, since we watched the first... Well, we were both on the card at Clandestine. She wrestled Nicole Matthews, as everyone knows. But after that, we said... she said, how about Kayla Jaye versus Zoe Sager, Sasha versus Bailey as the next imitation games match. And
I love it.
Because, I don't even think everybody knows, but I'm sure we both talked about it separately. But Bailey was the reason that she started training. She immediately fell in love with wrestling again because of Bailey versus Asuka, I think at Brooklyn 2, if I'm correct. And mine was Sasha Bailey, Brooklyn 1.
Yeah.
So those 2 matches there, for us, kind of bonded us as friends, actually. One of the first things I ever asked her was why'd you start training? And she said, this match. And I said, that's hilarious, because this match was the reason that I decided to. So we kind of bonded on that. And then she brought it up to me. And I said, well, I guess I could find some purple or blue hair. I mean,
well, I was going to say, there's no real debate over which way the roles would go as far as that goes, because, there's probably not... Well, you know what, man? By my money, there's probably not, a better baby face, male, female, than Zoe Sager in Alberta, Western Canada. I just haven't seen enough overall in Canada to make the distinction that she is the best of the best, but, I'd have no problem throwing her hat in the ring as far as that goes. I'm I've watched you work heel. You're a dick.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
I believe the last time we saw Kayla around a ring, she was handcuffing and super kicking Zoe Sager in the ropes.
It was an accident.
No, yeah, I slipped.
Twice?
Zoe, call me. I missed you.
Oh, man. It's okay. We'll all get through this.
So that's what the little creative mind of Zoe Sager has been pitching. So, I mean, if we throw it out there in the universe, why not?
Absolutely. Now,
if not, I want to be her tag team partner. I want to have a tag match.
All right. Fair enough. The Revival and American Alpha.
Yeah. We just got to find, American Alpha. I think we'd be the Revival, so got to find that American Alpha.
Well, whatever they're calling themselves now. They'll be calling themselves something different. I think they're going by Dax Harwood and Cash Wilder?
Cash Wheeler.
Something like that. Cash Wheeler. Thank you, Mike, on the fact check. We should start keeping track of how often you do this.
That's fact check number 4.
We've got a fan question. Thank you, Mike. Kayla, we've got a fan question for you from Morgan Meneghetti. You might know her. She's hot. She's my girlfriend.
I can't comment.
How have you felt the wrestling community change over the last little bit? Do you still feel connected with other wrestlers while you're stuck indoors?
Since Corona?
Yep.
I think it's changed because I think it's just giving people more the opportunity to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's kind of slowed down in the sense because everybody's thinking at 100 miles an hour all the time and just never really focusing on right now and details. But even like yourself, you and I were talking the other day about how this is giving you an opportunity to work on and do so many other things. Mm-hmm. And just from following whoever I follow on Instagram, everybody's watching wrestling, like old matches and doing other projects to do with wrestling as well. I mean, me, myself, this is the closest thing I've had to wrestling since it started. Yeah. But mostly I've just been focusing on other things. Like I moved, so that's a big thing, and other life things.
Have you picked up any new hobbies? That's the second part of her question. Yes.
Cooking? I mean, I've cooked a lot lately.
Nice. What are you cooking?
Giving me the opportunity. A lot of vegan food.
That's okay. That's fine. Yeah. I'm not like
a good thing.
I'm not a good cook of it by any means, but like Morgan's allergic to milk. I have to eat a lot of vegan food just out of necessity for that. So she's good at it. Shit, I don't know if you guys have either of you have been over for dinner, or anybody watching has ever been over for dinner. I don't even know who's watching at this point, but hello to all of you.
A 3-course meal of beer and chips.
If I could cook that for myself, I would 100% be set with beer and chips. Open it with a heavy one. Mike, it looks like you've got something going on.
Coming in from the chat room, first thing we got to ask, Kayla, did you watch WrestleMania this year?
I was moving.
Fair enough. Have you had a chance?
I watched only parts, just parts.
Have you had a chance to see the Boneyard match yet? And this is coming in from Joe Henson. He wants to know your thoughts on it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I only watched clips, and I thought it was completely outrageous. In a good way. I
was going to say that's a dual meaning there.
Yes, it was completely out there. And I mean, for something like this, especially because it wasn't in front of 100,000 people, right? Everything was at home, there was no audience and whatever. I think it worked perfectly, especially both nights to have a match that was something like that. I think it worked well. I don't think they could have made it as big as it could have been if it was in front of a live audience in a stadium. Because there's one thing people don't like is, you pay a very expensive ticket to go to WrestleMania and you're watching a 30, 40-minute match, whatever, on a screen. Like, who wants to do that, right? So,
come on,
I think it worked out well. And everybody's been talking about it. That's what they got. So I think it's fabulous. And I love both of them. Like, Undertaker nostalgia. Did I have a preference
between that or the Firefly Funhouse match? Because they were both like definitely cinematic matches, obviously, but they were both wildly different.
To be honest, I really liked the Firefly one because it had me cackling. Like, I was laughing.
You know, I just thought it was
completely ridiculous.
Dude, one of my favorite stats of the last couple of years is the fact that the Doctor of Thugonomics has now appeared at like 2 WrestleManias in a row for the first time since the early 2000s. It's great.
Oh my gosh. Just like the whole thing, psychologically, was hilarious. I loved it. So I would maybe have to go with that one just because it was so funny. Mm-hmm. But
now, one other one I've got to ask you about. What did you think of Rhea Ripley losing to Charlotte Flair? I saw the yikes face, and here comes the answer. Not a fan?
I mean, if the rumors are true of why she lost it, I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, I felt like a part of me was broken off when she lost because I love her so much.
She's so good.
She's so badass. Mm-hmm. And for her to lose, I just was so not devastated, but I was sad about it. I'm like, it was just more of like are you serious right now? Like,
yeah. Fair enough, man.
That's my reaction was this. Literally.
Fair enough. For anybody just tuning in, joined now by Kayla Jaye, independent wrestler here in Western Canada. Kayla, you were wrestling for Force Pro Wrestling before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Gotta ask, where are you wrestling when it's out?
Force Pro Wrestling.
Love it. Great answer.
I have to be their first champ. I have to be. I've been working towards that.
Well, and obviously moving there, like, it seems enjoyable off the bat. You and I have talked on the side about it, but, like, how have you enjoyed the move over to Force?
It was very much, I knew it was something I needed because I just needed something new. And it had a lot of things that I really wanted to do, and the opportunity. I just didn't realize how much of an opportunity it would be until I found out what my first match would be.
Yeah.
But I also found out what my second match would be when I found out second match would be when I found out the first.
Yeah.
And I said, oh gosh, I need to get on the treadmill. But
I'll take it.
It's the truth. I mean, I had to work on my cardio a little bit more, but just for that, the first month, that's what I was going to have the first month. And, like, my ideas, like the ideas I had before I even was on the card, I kind of, everybody knows, like, if they listened to that interview we did, Zoe was a big reason why I went.
Yep.
She was. As much as she's like, that's not true, Kayla. I said, yes.
As much as you kicked her in the face.
Yes, it is true. I went there so I could kick her in the face more. Those ideas, like, they came into fruition.
The best reason for most business decisions.
Yes. Like, that's all I want to do is kick everybody in the face.
Exactly.
But I think it was just kind of training there, and then when that opportunity arose, I had to. It was just the right thing. I needed some time off anyways, but I only really took a few weeks off, and then I wrestled on their first show. So you can't go wrong, because the first night I got to wrestle Zoe one-on-one. You can't go wrong. And then you have a second match the exact same night with Dylan Stone, with Zoe, and with MRB.
Yeah. How fun's it been to work with Dylan Stone and Henri?
Well, Dylan, him and I have known each other since the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like, match you're going to watch tonight.
Actually, you know what? Before we get to that, why was your first match on a CWC card?
Anyways, just kidding. Just kidding.
You can plead the fifth on this one if you really want to.
I'm coming. I'm just kidding. Well, my first ever match was a Fatal 4-Way.
Yeah.
And then Angelica was wrestling a lot for CWC, and they needed an opponent for her on this show, I believe, at the very end of July there. Right, Michael?
Yes, this will be the July show that comes up.
Yeah. So it was at the very end of July, so my first match was on Canada Day. And I was like, okay, that's good enough for now. Like, I wasn't really ready for that match, but I was. So when that match came around, I was like, okay, well, I might as well just do this singles match right out the bat. It's in Red Deer. What's the worst thing that can happen? So
what was the worst thing that happened?
It was it was just, in my own mind, it was a train wreck. In Angelica's mind, it was a train wreck. It was not. I don't even know what I was doing. I don't even remember the match for a reason.
The worst part about that match was the promo that was done before it.
It's okay, Mike. Everybody.
Oh, I'm like, I don't know whose promo you're talking about, but exactly, that was the reason.
Watch the video and find out.
Fine, everybody watch it and tell me how different I look compared to then.
There you go.
Yeah, I look a lot different, I think, maybe.
Well, the name was certainly a lot different.
Oh, the name was a lot different, just a little bit. Just a little bit. But no, yeah, so that was why my first match was in Red Deer. They just called me up, and I really wasn't scheduled for another match for MPW until September. Mm-hmm. So I figured, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I had my first match. And I'm glad it was in CWC, if I'm honest, especially with Angelica.
Mm-hmm. Now, this may tie in because the venue in Red Deer Festival Hall is my favorite venue to go to as a wrestling fan. What's your favorite venue you've ever worked in?
Ooh. Including the crowd, so I guess it all comes together as one?
Yeah, why not?
Actually, I guess it's a little bit unexpected, but where I worked for Thrash in Kamloops, actually.
Okay. That was the second show you were out there, wasn't it?
It was the first. It was the Friday. Okay. And then the second night was in Kelowna. So that match. And they hadn't been in Kamloops, I think, for a little while, they told me, and they weren't really sure what the crowd would be like because they hadn't worked there for a little bit. And the venue was, when we got in there, it was weird because it just had the floor, but then it had like not bleachers, but kind of like step-ups in a sense. Yeah,
like the pull-out stairs or whatever you call it, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I said, okay, well, I hope we get a good crowd. And it was so hot that day. It was like plus 35 in Kamloops. It was really hot. And they were like, no, we're not going to get a good crowd. So we were semi-main, I believe, that night. Yeah. Jade and myself. And they packed it. Like, the whole room was packed. And we had a really good match. And the crowd was, like, very happy to have wrestling there. So I think that venue, just the way they were kind of looking down on the ring in a sense, was really cool. And then the fact that it was very full of people who actually just wanted to watch wrestling, it was, I can't duplicate it. Like, when we got back to the back after that match, we were just so happy. Like, so that venue and that crowd was probably my favorite I've ever wrestled in front of. Yeah.
Fantastic, man. Now, we got fan questions submitted to us earlier. I was told not to tell by whom. Okay, I want you to take us a little bit, take us through the relationship of Pride and Envy a little bit.
Wait, who submitted that?
It wasn't Pride, but they did ask to remain anonymous. I figure I'll get the one, the person who's not you. I'll clear their name. It wasn't Pride.
Take us through the relationship. Okay, so what, the beginning?
Sort of how it came to be, how it ended, if there's any highlights. That was just their general question. So, well, I know there were many highlights. All right. One of my favorite photos I've got of you is like you screaming at Mike with Pride, screaming at Mike as you're holding the RCW Women's Championship you just won from Nicole Matthews.
I did beat Nicole Matthews and Angelica. That was a week after my birthday too.
Funny how I got that right on the screen here right now.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Mike. Put that on there. That's a great picture. And Spencer Love took that picture.
You can hold on to that forever. It's like when Chris Jericho beat The Rock and Stone Cold in the same night.
It was, actually, now that we're talking about some of our favorite matches, like especially because Angelica was in it, that was a fun match. And you know why? Because I just let Nicole Matthews beat the crap out of her for 20 and stole the win. So it was great.
I'll reference back, like you got a little mad, but I'll reference back that like I've seen you work heel and you're kind of a dick.
I mean, you can't go wrong when you're starting to hear Nicole throw her chops. Yeah. I just hit a little bit. I said, I'm just going to stay over here.
So good, dude. There's not really much else you can say about it. Like, she is regarded as one of, if not the best Canadian female wrestler for a number of reasons. And all of them valid, man. All of them.
I mean, like, if you want just an example of how hard she hits, I think I actually saw Zoe Sager's soul leave her body at Clandestine. That's how hard she hits her.
I got to give a big shout out to my friend Marcel, who also loved The Rock and Stone Cold, losing on the same night to Jericho. Big shout out. You're Alberta's Jericho, Kayla. Way to go in Marcel's eyes.
Thank you again. That's a really big compliment. I don't know if Pride would like that compliment. He probably wants to be Jericho.
You know what? That was too cool. The way things tie themselves together. Hey, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Back to Ed.
So basically, how did we start? Okay, so I was still KJ Cash. Rest in peace. I was still her. And we were friends for a little while. And when he decided to just become Pride, he needed an Envy. So who better than, one of your closest friends in the business? Mm-hmm. And I was looking for something different, too, because KJ Cash was kind of just given to me. I didn't get to really actively choose what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be. It was just kind of like someone saying, here, put this on, just whatever.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel like I was into it. And it took me a while to I was like, okay, this sounds really cool. I really want to do this. I want to be Envy. Mm-hmm. It took me a while to become Envy, though, like a long time, like months. Months and months and months.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you is, how hard is it? Because getting into a character in any professional wrestling sense, even if you're someone I don't mean it as a shot, but like a Seth Rollins, who's gimmick is, okay, I am the best professional wrestler in the world. Like, how hard is it to get into a role where you do have to take on a little bit more and get into sort of like, I guess, a darker side of things, or a more like, what's the word I want to use? Like, not just a straight up professional wrestling sense of things, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the kind of
mystic, I guess, is the, you know, it's not the best way to put it.
The mystique.
Parrish, I know, right? Mike didn't want to work Mania, and this is why we didn't have the good setup. Sorry, Kayla, I'm just answering questions randomly here.
I'm not looking, so keep going.
That's why I'm just randomly interjecting.
Pride and Envy, so that's basically how it took off. And there's so many memories. Like, he was there when I won my first ever title. Yep. He was there. He was there to also be like, okay, the match wasn't that bad. Let's go get something to drink. In the dark alley behind the venue.
He was there driving home from Winnipeg with a popped tire.
Oh.
Sorry, man. Somebody had to say something.
We don't talk about that. But that was a fun, somewhat weekend. I mean, getting there was fun. Coming
that
home
was your first time out in Winnipeg, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So when he said, let's go to Winnipeg, I'm like, it's so far. But I was kind of excited just because I've never been there. And he was very excited about it. He's like, we need to do this. Like, I really want to do this. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Like, we'll drive out. So we drove out. The venue was, like, interesting. It was at a bar. Really cool.
That was PCW?
Yeah, it was PCW. And, yeah, we decided, we're like, okay, we're tired. We kind of just want to start driving home.
Yeah.
Instead of staying, because it's going to take us a long time to drive home.
That's like, what, 12, 13 hours? I've never been out to Winnipeg either.
It was a long time. And it was a little, it was cold, like really cold that day. It was like minus 35 or something. Like, it was very, very, very cold. And, of course, that's when everybody always has tire issues, when it's very, very cold and you don't want to get out of your car. So we were just, like, really kind of happy and whatever, and we got food, and we're like, okay, let's do this drive. We can be home by lunchtime tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
we were not home by lunchtime tomorrow.
No, we were not home till Sunday. So it was that will always be a story where I'm like, so if people say let's go to Winnipeg, I'm like,
maybe not.
I said, am I driving? Because then no.
Well, it's a bit of a cliche, Kayla, but, like, as far as professional wrestling goes, like, how much of, like, a character builder is that, or how much do you see that as, like, maybe a rite of passage, or not a necessity, but, like, as a pro wrestler goes, like, you're obviously not the first person to have that happen to him. You're not going to be the last. Like, it's just part of the gig, right?
I mean, it's happened a few times in the cars that I've been in.
That was just the worst of them.
That was the worst, because it was minus 35, and we were 13 hours away from home. And we didn't have a place to stay, because we were like, nope, we're going home. So luckily, like, we did get a hotel that night. The lady took pity on us and whatever, but the other time, Parrish will probably remember this, but I was with Lumberjack Larry and Chris Parrish, and we also had a flat tire one night. Luckily, it was springtime, though, so it wasn't that cold, but we did have one, and we just saw everybody coming home, driving by, and we're like, trying to fix this tire.
Yeah. Hood's popped and the trunk's popped, but nobody's pulling over.
No, I mean, like...
Hey, I offered.
You were gone already, Michael. You were gone.
You're producing.
Yeah. I mean, we got our food. We got the Twinkies. You know, we're good to go.
Fair enough, man. Now, I did get another fan question from you. They're wondering what the hell happened to the Double Down podcast.
I got busy.
I'll call that one because I was the other host. The women's wrestling sucked.
That's fair.
Cannot confirm or deny.
Cannot confirm or deny. There's some rough patches worldwide as far as everything goes, but, like, Gage, you're about 2.5, 3 years into professional wrestling in Alberta. You're one of the longest tenured female wrestlers in the province, which is even weird for me to say. how have you seen the scene change, or how have you seen it develop, or I guess what are your even overall thoughts on the women's scene in Western Canada right now?
It's like really expanding, if I'm honest. I mean, you think about when, even 3 years ago when Angelica and I started, there wasn't a lot. Mm-hmm. There was no girls in Southern Alberta at all. At all. Like, I think there was one. I don't even think there was one, if I'm honest. Everybody was Edmonton.
March used to wrestle for a bit, if I remember correctly, but even I'd never had the opportunity to see her wrestle live. I guess she technically, could be the only one in Southern Alberta. But that's even you and I are stretching on that from 3 years ago. Like,
oh, even 3 years ago, yeah. I'm not even really sure exactly when she started, but and even then, Angelica didn't live in Lethbridge yet, so she was still technically Edmonton. So all the women's wrestling was in Edmonton. Everything else had to kind of be brought in. And even, Red Deer, like, there's a few girls now that are out of Red Deer, or were out of Red Deer, that were training. And but there's a lot. Like, there's a lot of girls, like, in Calgary that wrestle and, like, live there, but then so many more in Edmonton just because there's a lot of opportunity to train here. Especially with Storm kind of shutting down a little bit. Like, I think that they're going to take a while to kind of get that reputation back for training. But I know that the girls are training down there. Like, they have their own, like, the workout. I was going to say it's the workhorse. Fitness, you know, like, they're training down there, which is great. But a lot of people were coming up here, like, to do their training sessions on the weekends that MRB had his camps. Yep. There was a few girls. There was a lot of. I'm certain you're going to see the same with top talent. Like, people want to wrestle, and if they've got the opportunity to learn from great people, I'm certain they're going to take it, right? Well, and I think it's kind of also with girls as well. Like, if they see that there's other girls going to this place to train or to wrestle, they're going to, like, kind of gravitate because that's who they kind of want to wrestle. Like, right now, like, it takes you a little while to be comfortable, like, wrestling guys. Yeah. So if they're seeing, like, oh, all the girls are wrestling, I don't know, in PWA, for example, it's kind of like, well, I want to wrestle in PWA because I'm going to have, 6, 7 different opponents to choose from. Just an opportunity to be more comfortable, it sounds like, right? Because even for yourself, who I know, like, we sat down and one of the first things I asked you was whether you wanted to work intergender matches or not, but even then it took you a couple years to do so. Like, I assume it's got to be, whether it's a confidence thing, whether it's you want to just work women for the time being, whatever it is, like, it's great to see that people are starting to get that opportunity. Mm-hmm. Mike, there's a question on the line.
No, just a quick comment from a Leah Jameson. I love you, Kayla, with all capital letters. Leah Jameson. I don't know if you know her.
No, don't know.
No, I didn't think so. But anyway, feel free to.
I love you. I love you. I love you too. I love you too. I'll call you later. Don't tell Mom.
Let's keep this one on the down low. But man, like, it's even cool for me to see, because when I started coming out to indie shows here in Edmonton, I was lucky enough that the first show that I went to had literally, like, Taya Valkyrie was on the card, Tennille was on the card, and then as I started coming out more consistently, it seemed like, 2015, 16, Kat Von Hees was the only female wrestler that I knew of, right?
For a long time, she's been, like, the mainstay. I guess you could call her, like, a pillar, in a sense, because she has been here a very, very long time and has wrestled a lot of girls, like, a lot that have come through. She's kind of like the first person that, like, even, like, look at Taryn from accounting. Yeah. Right? Like, she was Taryn's first match in PWA. Like, she's a lot of people's, like, first matches in general, much less in PWA. Yeah. Like, she was, I think, Zoe's first match, I think. So
Zoe's first match, the first match I watched you in was in PWA with Kat Von Hees. Like,
it was my first PWA match,
Yeah, I mean it, and thank you for correcting me. I mean it in the most, like, complimentary way possible, but it's a very, like, Dolph Ziggler sort of role, in the fact that, like, she could have a good match with a broomstick, she's not going to screw anything up with anybody. It's one of my favorite things to say, okay? Like, I love watching her wrestle, man. I really do. Now, you mentioned it earlier, like, seeing her as a pillar of the Albertan and Western Canadian pro wrestling scene goes. Like, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth and I don't want to put you over too much, man, but, like, do you see yourself as one of those pillars now that you are one of the longest tenured women?
No. I mean, no. I mean, I guess just because I've been around a little bit, but even then, it's not even that long. Like, it's only a few years, so no. I think it's different. My, like, last 6 months, yes, I would be a little bit more inclined to say, not inclined to say, but I have a lot more confidence in the last 6 months, is what I'm trying to say.
You feel more like a veteran, for lack of a better way to put it.
I wouldn't even say veteran. I think I would just say just confident in what I can do and what I know in that sense. Like, you would have told me a year ago that I would wrestle MRB, and I feel like, no, thank you. I'm busy that night. Like, I would say literally, I'm like, no, thank you. I just because I would be too scared. You know what I mean? I'd be, like, intimidated just because he's, watch one of his matches and you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I would be, but I think that in its own really helps, you know, like that really helps. So he's helped me a lot.
Mike's raising his hand like one of those, well, you know those cats, I don't know what their even purpose is, but you see him waving like this.
Yeah. Good thing Mike, nobody else can see me on this camera here.
No.
We're going to be live next time so you stop doing it.
How did it feel to hit a Canadian destroyer on Michael Richard Blaze? And now the evolution of the Canadian destroyer in general with you.
Oh, God. Nerve-wracking, because the first time I ever did it was in the match. I never ever did it before that. I never practiced it. I never did it on anybody else before that. I've never done it in my life. Mm-hmm. And that was the first and only, well, I've done it a few times since then, but the very first and only time I ever did it was in that match. And I was like, just don't die. Like, just don't die. Don't hurt your head. Like, just whatever. And
the best way to approach professional wrestling.
Just don't die. So I was like, okay, sure. Like, let's try this. Yeah. And I mean, I think it worked out really well. I know a lot of people do that move. Like, it's become kind of like the new super kick in a sense, whatever. But I mean, now I do both of them in one move. So,
I love it, man.
That just puts me in the category twice.
Love it. Now, I wanted to ask you, actually, myself. You wrestled both Michael Allen Richard Clark and Michael Richard Blaze. Try and make sure you don't confuse those names. Right? What did you find different about wrestling them? Because they're definitely two of the best professional wrestlers in Canada. What's the difference in wrestling the both of them?
It's so funny because when I found out I was working MRB, I was like, even then, when I had a little bit more confidence, I was like, oh God, oh, you know, and I was very excited because I'm like, okay, this is like an opportunity to whatever, try new things,
so I can do.
Learn, mostly learn. Like, I just really wanted to learn from him, and I was already at the training, spoiler alert, training like with him and Zoe and stuff. Like, I was learning so much, so many different things. So when I was like, oh, like, I could have a match with him, this means I can try so many things, you know, and he had so many things that, you know. Then when I found out I was wrestling Mark, Zoe actually told me, spoiler, and I was like very excited because I was coming off of the MRB match, which I was like, oh, you know, like, okay, I didn't die.
It just went so well.
You know, I went through a table, but I didn't die.
Just went well.
No death. So I was coming off of that, and I'm like, hey, I just want to, like, we might as well start wrestling all the guys. Like, let's go. I had no idea that I was wrestling him until I saw the promo picture online.
Oh,
and
really?
I was like, that came out of nowhere? Like, okay, cool. I was shocked because, like, that was his first Force show. Like, I didn't know that he was going to wrestle at Force. Like, I'm sure at one point he was going to, of course. But
yeah. Well, and that was, when I was talking to him, that was his first intergender match as well, as far as singles go, because he'd been in a tag match, I think, with Chelsea Green when she was still Jada. Which
I listened to that.
Like, how cool is that for you?
I was kind of like, wow, really? Because he told me, he said, yeah, you're my first, like, singles match.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, me? Really? Of all people, me?
For more stories on that, please make sure you check out the Conversations with Love with Michael and Richard Clark here on the Win Calm Sports Network.
Plug.
With your host, me?
Thanks for that. But yeah, no, that match was so much fun. And I think it was just because of the MRB match that I was a lot more relaxed. Mm-hmm. And it did give me that confidence where, you know, you can offer something here. And I think just having fun, especially like training and working with him. I was like, okay, you just need to start having more fun, because I was just like this a lot, where I'm like, okay, let's just do this, like, let's get her done kind of a thing. And then I just was like, no, like, let's just have fun. And then everything else started coming with it. And that Michael Allen Richard Clark match was one of the funnest matches I have ever done. Like, if I had, he would probably be number one, if I'm honest, like, of fun I've had in a match. He's probably number one, for sure. Yeah.
Very cool to hear, man. Is that just because, like, you feel like you did sort of go in with a little bit of, not unpreparedness, but you did go in there with a little bit less regiment behind it? Because, like, even you and I, when we speak, like, you and I are both pretty organized people. We both like to know the next step in things. Like, stepping into a wrestling ring, whether it's with Michael Allen Richard Clark or with anybody in a larger sense, like, how much do you find yourself having to, like, actively shut that down? You know what I mean? I found at the beginning I was overthinking a lot.
Yeah. And I was thinking about things like way too much leading up to things. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, you need to stop. Like, you can come up with ideas. Like, if you find out, hey, I'm wrestling MRB. Okay, like, I kind of want to try this,
you know? Move, I want to counter it with this.
Yeah, and I know, like, a lot of people, like, some people, they'll, like, want to talk about their matches or something like that or whatever. But I just kind of, like, want to do it day by day, because otherwise everything starts to come together and just become like this. So the fact that I didn't know what to expect and I had no idea what this match would be was the exciting part.
Yeah.
So up until an hour before the show, I was like, okay.
Fair enough. Now, like, we're getting closer. We're getting closer to wrapping her up here, Kayla. We got about 6 minutes left so that Mike can get his pre-show in for the CWC, so that everybody can check out your very first match.
Very first singles match. Let's get it straight.
Singles match.
I got to get that video up of your original.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, man.
I don't even think there is footage of that original match of mine, the first ever match.
You know what? I will say MPW, Mike, whether it's Pontarello, like whoever has been there since I've been going out, they've done a really good job with video. I'm certain there is some footage of the debut of KJ Cash.
Oh, yeah, there's video.
Well, you know what? That one's not as bad as the first singles match, so...
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead, Mike, find that one.
Well, and I say it with a bit of ignorance to me, admittedly, but, like, I would have to feel that entering your first match, being a fatal four-way where you've got some individuals who can cover, where you would be rough, like, it would be a bit... I use the phrase easier loosely, but easier to break into that than your first singles match.
It took pressure off, for sure. It took some pressure off. Hit your move and you're gone.
Fair enough. Hit the finish. It's like Superhuman. When I was when I talked to Joey Ryan, he said, yeah, I wrestled in a match. It was a fatal four-way, I think. I don't remember who else was in it, but Superhuman was in it. And he got knocked out about 2 fucking minutes into the match and left it from there, and then hit a frog splash for the win.
Well, like, the only thing I remember of that first ever match was how hot the mat was, because it was outside. So that's all I will remember. Yeah.
That sounds just absolutely awful. But either way, to get back to it, I've got to ask the couple last fan questions we've gotten. It's nice that they tie themselves together. They're both about dream opponents. One is just who is your dream opponent overall, whether it's male or female, and then who in the women's scene or women's division do you want to wrestle in the next year? Whether you faced them or not. I don't like the phrase dream match, but got beat to death last year.
There's a lot of dream matches now.
Yeah.
Because of all these WWE releases.
Don't forget to use the word Alberta Indie Dream Match or the hashtag Alberta Indie Dream Match for literally everything that happened in 2019.
Tessa will always be up there. Like, she will always be up there as people I want to wrestle. Tessa, for sure. Like, she's up there. As for Alberta Indie Dream Matches, I haven't wrestled Taryn from accounting yet. Like,
that even surprises me, man.
Come on, make it happen. One of my dream matches that I really, really want to have. Close your ears, Mom. I want to have a last man standing match with Zoe Sager.
Yes, make it happen.
I do.
Powers that be. Let's put that one out there into the universe. Yep. I would love to see that.
That is my dream match right now. I want that match so bad. So
let's make it happen, man.
Yep.
let's absolutely make it happen. Kayla, it's always a blast getting to chat to you, man, whether it's on Facebook Live for the fans of the WCSN or whether we're just shooting the shit outside of this, man. But it's always good to talk to you. Thanks for joining me on this, especially when it's our first shot trying stuff on Facebook Live with a producer and that. You're always such a willing guinea pig. I say that's the nicest way.
I just, like to talk about myself, I guess. But as soon as you say, do you want to be the first? I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Well, why not?
I mean, worst things could happen. I don't mind being the guinea pig, as long as you say, do you want to be the guinea pig?
It's appreciated, Cage. Now, as always, the last segment I like to leave for my guests of the show to plug where people can find them. I know it's obviously tough to plug where people can watch you wrestle next, but if they want to keep track of you on social media, where can they do so?
I mean, you could probably find me at Force Pro whenever that happens again, when we're allowed to be in a room with other people again.
Social distancing is important, Kayla.
Yeah, social distancing, sorry. Yeah, just Kayla Jaye on everything. That's it.
Beauty, man. It was great to talk to you. I'm sure we'll do so sooner rather than later. Whether it's via this old Skype machine, whether it's getting together for patio beverages at Julio's once again.
I hope that is something I want more than anything, is to just go sit at Julio's. So
sooner rather than later, man. It's always appreciated. Thank you for joining me on the show. Mike, I got to be honest here. I don't know how to close these out. I'm used to a podcast. I'm used to being able to edit these things. So I'm going to thank you guys all for tuning in once again here on the WCSN. Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you and smile like an idiot until we close this out.
Mike, you just say, play my music. That's all you say.
It would help if I didn't have this thing on mute. Wow! No wonder.
I was wondering, like, what is going on over there?
All right, folks, I'm going to go through this quick here.
Why am I getting paid?
Thank God we could chop this out for the audio podcast. So.
Oh, I can hear myself. Turn that off.
Well, at the very least, I'm glad that I cautioned everyone I'd be smiling like an idiot.
Let me get through this real quick here. Folks, make sure you stay on the WCSN Backbreaker Media YouTube page. Coming up at the top of the hour, we have our latest edition of the Canadian Wrestling Coalition, not only featuring the debut match in singles competition of KJ Cash taking on Angelica, but we also have the initial Alberta Rumble match for the Alberta Championship, as well as kicking off the show, we have the team known as the Wrecking Crew, Sean Martins and Dean Richter. Somebody you know very well, Kayla.
Oh, my boy.
And they're going to be
the whole first year of my career with him.
They're going to be taking on the team of MPW favorites known as the Shark Club, Tyler James and Sydney Steele. But then in our main event, it is the first championship defense of Chris Parrish in a ladder match against Jack Pride. Now that's a match you're not going to want to miss. As for what we're going to have here coming up on the Facebook Live and whatnot, if anybody has any ideas of a guest that they want on this show, please get a hold of Spencer, get a hold of me. Hell, get a hold of Kayla. She'll get a hold of
I don't know which corner you're in. I think it's this corner.
Yeah,
I think I'm pointing
I
correctly.
have the connections. That's why I get to be on these things.
As well,
Kayla knows someone.
May 10th, we are going to resume the Over the Top Rope Live for the Money in the Bank. I sure as hell don't want to call it a pay-per-view. We'll call it a show. Because, it's probably going to be some kind of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, really big shoe, Mike. I'm very excited for it, to be quite honest with you, Cage. I know you and I touched on it. Money in the Bank is going to be fantastic. Of course, Mike, I'm going to interrupt you there because I always have to give the shout-out to Beercade YEG, of course, an avid consumer of the product that they serve there. Beercade YEG is your home of Edmonton professional wrestling, folks. 105th Street and 82nd Avenue right here in the beautiful City of Champions. Of course, I know no one can head there right now. It's unfortunate. Mike and myself would love to be there hosting the show with our good friend Chris Parrish.
We need to get Kayla there, too.
Well, of course. Kayla comes out as often as she is able to. I will fully give her credit for that. However, well, and I do expect that to be more often now that you live closer to it, but, you were a 40-minute drive. I'll be fair with that.
Yeah. I live a lot closer now. I could like walk almost. No, actually, no.
Beercade, the home of Edmonton Pro Wrestling and the home of OTTR Live. Myself, Chris Parrish, and Mike the Ref, who I'm going to throw it back to right now to close out this. I don't even have a name for this show yet, but we'll call it OTTR Live. Thanks, Mike.
Live with love.
Thanks for checking out our latest OTTR Live, and if we don't see you any sooner, we will keep track on social media, because we'll definitely have more announcements about this stuff. And as well, on the May 10th show, we're going to have a very special announcement about a very special OTTR Live that we're going to start doing now. And before Spencer shows off the title way too much here, as I get rid of his graphic in front so he can present his elite WCSN. What do you call it, Spencer?
The WCSN Elite Canadian Championship, Mike, of course, lovingly brought to you by the folks here at Elite Promotional Marketing, powering the belt, of course, that you see on my shoulder right here. It ain't a belt, it's a championship. It's a beautiful one, and it's all brought to you by the fine folks at Elite Sportswear.
Parrish, you need to win that championship next show. But anyway, on behalf of Kayla Jaye and Spencer Love, this is producer Mike the Ref saying thanks for checking us out on OTTR Live.
Alberta is blessed with a wide variety of high-quality sports, rich with talented athletes and successful franchises in all levels in any sport. We aim to tell those stories. The Win Column Sports Network was created with one goal in mind: providing professional level coverage of semi-professional franchises, athletes, and organizations in Edmonton. We believe Edmonton can stand proudly behind our moniker of the City of Champions. This city has been home to multiple AJHL championships, a two-time WCBL semi-finalist, numerous WWE signed independent wrestlers, and many more success stories.
This is Shane Hurricane Helms.
Hey guys, this is TJ Wilson, aka Tyson Kidd.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is almighty Christopher Daniels.
Stories you can only find on the Win Column Sports Network.